This video is sponsored by Paperlike, the iPad screen protector that makes writing or drawing on the iPad feel just like paper. If you want to learn more, click on the links in the description down below. What is up guys, Karma Medic here, and welcome back to another dose. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Nasser, and I'm now a third year medical student studying at King's College London, and in my life I've gone almost completely paperless thanks to my iPad Pro. It's helped me take notes at university for all my lectures and tutorials and things like that, and also at the hospital when I'm going around on the ward rounds trying to take note of important information. And every time I show or use my iPad in one of these YouTube videos, I get quite a few comments asking me what my color coding strategy is when I take notes using the app Notability. And if you guys like my color coding strategy, you can use it yourselves or build on your own color coding strategy using some of the things that I talk about in this video. Now for my note-taking app of choice on the iPad Pro, I use an app called Notability, and this is its little icon down over here. Personally, I think this is the best note-taking app that you can have on the iPad Pro, and I've already done a video comparing it to GoodNotes, and I'll leave a link to it somewhere over here on screen if you guys want to check it out. So basically within Notability, within my dividers and within my subjects, this is what a typical one of my lecture notes will look like. Now I can already see the comments. The first thing you guys are going to say is that my notes look really messy. As long as I can read them, that's the only thing that's important. And just to prove my point, innate cells killed by phagocytosis, bactericidal killing, e.g. respiratory burst, nitrous oxide production, and also do transcription activation as antigen-presenting cells. Dendritic cells are the best antigen-presenting cells. There you go, I've proved I can read my own writing without any problem. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the color coding of my notes. So generally, a set of my notes will have a title in the top left corner, and then the page will be divided into about 3 columns. The left, the middle, and the right. And the reason that I do this is again for increased hierarchy and organization of the page. A very good memorization technique for me is remembering where the information was physically on the page, whether it was in the top left corner, in the middle, or in the top right, for example. Now each of my columns I read in a top-down direction, starting with the left, and then the middle, and then the right. The first page of colors that Notability provides has very solid colors, so they create quite a lot of contrast between the white paper and then the writing that you do. And so I don't really like them for that reason. I prefer to use the second page, which is these more pale or neutral colors. Now in recent times I've gone out and made my own custom third page, which consists of even more pale colors because I find them easier to be on the eye for those long studying and reading sessions. I don't get as fatigued when I'm looking at these colors on the page. Now let's dive into specifically talking about the different colors that I use and what they actually mean. Okay, so starting with the color bright pink. This is the pink over here, and I always and only use it in order to write the title of the lecture that I'm doing. The title is always in the top left of the page, and it is numbered, and that number corresponds to a specific lecture that you can find if you tap out and stay within the same subject of my notes. For example, that lecture we were looking at was lecture 03, and so here if I go down to lecture 03, I know that it's HIV pathogenesis. The next thing that I do is I write down all of the lecture headings or the subtitles within the lecture in this sort of lightish blue color here. And that's what you guys see over here. These are all the subtitles of the lecture. Underneath of the subtitle, I write all of the general information or the normal information in this light gray color over here. And the reason that I use light gray as opposed to a solid blue or a solid black is again because I feel like those colors create a lot of contrast between the white page and then for example here, this solid black. Okay, so that's what I use to write all of the general information that you guys see over here, for example. It's just all of the information that isn't necessarily a title or something important or anything like that. It's basically your main pen that you use for the majority of the writing that you do. The next color that you probably notice in my lecture notes is this dark yellow orangey color over here, which as you can see, I use to make all of my subheadings or lists. So generally it's used for 2 purposes. Either at the very beginning of the lecture for writing down general or random information, so this will usually be something like epidemiological information or quick facts about the lecture that's about to happen, or when I'm making lists. As you guys can see here, I have number 1, number 2, number 3, and again here 1, 2, 3. So it's just the color that I use whenever there's a list that I need to learn or a list that I need to memorize. Now red is probably the most intuitive and obvious one. I use red whenever I want to highlight a very important piece of information. And obviously red, it stands out against all of the other colors on the page. It's quick to identify and you know that this information is important information. And so that way, if I'm ever opening these notes a couple of months after I've I've written them, I can immediately identify what I think is important information because it's written in red. Now, of course, that red information isn't enough by itself, and you need the context that I've written in the light gray color. And of course, if I want even more context, I can look at what lecture number this is, and then go back one page and find the corresponding lecture and read up even more about it on the slides. Now, because this is an iPad, it's very, very easy to import pictures or copy and paste pictures from the lecture slides. So let's say, for example, I wanted to copy any of these slides over here. I can click on the select tool, highlight a piece of information that I want, copy, go back to the lecture that I was at. Then if I go down to a blank space, I can quickly paste that. I can now annotate as I wish and write on and whatever. Do you want to come in, hon?
Yeah.
All right, come in.
I'll buy you some.
You got me something. Why are you so cute?
Okay.
Is it food?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Is it candy?
Just open your eyes.
Little mango mochi balls. They're my favorite. All right, back to the video. Okay, the next two colors are dark purple and light purple. Now, dark purple is reserved for pieces of information that I think are high yield and I think are likely to show up on upcoming tests. So for example, this information here, highly active antiretroviral therapy, is a combination of 3 of these drugs. They're not a cure, but they control replication and viral load. This piece of information I think is going to be very important, and so I'm gonna write it in dark purple. Now, light purple, on the other hand, is a much less common color. Let me find an example of it. Okay, here we go. So light purple is used for pieces of information that I have already seen on past tests or on tests that I've personally done. And so it's a non-negotiable fact that this piece of information I absolutely have to know and I have to memorize. Because I know it's come up on a test, which means I know that examiners think it's important, and so it might come up again in the future. So light purple is a very important color, and it means know this, know this, know this. Now, before I move on to the next color, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Paperlike. Paperlike is an iPad screen protector that makes writing or drawing on the iPad feel just like paper. And that's something that I really enjoy about my note-taking experience on an iPad. It's that I feel like I've had such a natural transition from writing on paper to writing on an electronic device. It gives me that little bit of extra grip when I'm writing that I feel like I need so that my pen isn't slipping all over the place on the glass of the iPad. On top of that, it helps protect my iPad from my sweaty hands and greasy fingers, especially after I've been writing on it for a really long time. And of course, it's still a screen protector, so helps prevent damage and scratches to the actual screen of the iPad, which has already saved me on more than one occasion. I use it every single day and think that it's a fantastic product, and if you guys want to check out Paperlike for yourself, I'll leave links in the description down below and also in a pinned comment. Anyways, back to the video. Okay, now the next color that I use, which I really enjoy, is this light green color over here. So light green is reserved for only writing down pieces of information that relate to drugs or treatment or drug management and things like that. So that way, when I'm scrolling through this lecture and I'm looking through it, I can immediately identify any pieces of information that are relevant to drugs. So for example, over here, first line treatment is methotrexate. If that doesn't help, anti-TNF alpha therapy is often given. Infliximab, adalimumab, which is a monoclonal antibody. Again, I'm sure you guys can't read that at all, but as long as I can read it, that's the most important thing. So this I find very useful, especially when I'm in an exam and I'm looking at a series of names of drugs and things like that. My mind immediately goes towards bright green colors, and it sort of helps me remember the information from the lecture notes as bright green, as to do with drugs. I don't know, it's just a helpful way for me to further categorize information, and it works very well. Okay, so that's bright green. There's one more color I want to talk about, which is brown. Brown is the color that I use if I'm ever going through a set of notes for a second time. So when I see this brown color over here, I know that I wrote down this piece of information on a second read through of going through these notes. And what this means for me is that when I wrote down this piece of information in brown, I felt that it was important enough for me to write down on top of all the notes that already exist. And so again, it's probably an important piece of information, but anyway, because it's such a different color and it's not seen that often, it stands out in comparison to all the other colors, and I know that it's important. And then last but not least, what I want to cover is the highlighting. So these are all the highlighters here. They're again the same colors. And generally I choose a highlighter color only based on what I think will look best given what color is going to be underneath it. So for example, over here, this yellow and pink doesn't really work well at all. You can barely distinguish the different colors. So I would use something a little bit darker like this gray over here. Stop beeping. Anyway, so yeah, highlighting doesn't really have a strict method. I just choose whatever color I feel like using at the time, whatever I think will stand out the most and make me highlight again that this piece of information is really important. All right, guys, and I think that's everything that I've gone through now. I've talked about pretty much all of the colors that I use in my color coding in Notability when I'm taking lecture notes at university here in medical school. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something new. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something new and taken away something about color coding that you can implement into your own studying, and hopefully that helps you memorize or learn information better and helps you do better on tests in the future. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to my channel to see more content from me in the future. And yeah, I think that's it, and I will see you in the next one, Thursday, same time, same place. Peace.